Okay, so this is the one shot for the flooded cabin. Just a little quick game we'll run today, and then we have two players. So I'm gonna go ahead and have you guys start out with character introductions. We just start left to right on the screen, starting with Isabelle.
All right. My name is Isabelle Thompson. I'm a 28-year-old halfling, and I am a lore bard. Level 4.
Awesome. And Loki.
Hello, I am Loki. Sometimes called the god of mischief. Nah, I'm no god. I just like causing a little mischief from time to time. Plus, I steal things occasionally.
Would you
Don't
say
have
that
the
you're
control.
What was that?
I was gonna say, would you say that you're a low-key troublemaker?
Low clap. Well played. And well
So,
met.
so you guys are currently wandering travelers. You can go ahead and explain maybe why you'd be up in the neighboring country of Nerria. But you're going through kind of the farmlands and kind of maybe heading back home to the mainland. And the region is hit by an onslaught of torrential rains, which often produces floods and actually is very good for their harvests for the spring and summer and fall. However, it does make traveling rather unbearable. So you stop off in one of the little villages, and there happens to be a tavern or inn, which is called the Poncho, and you can kind of relate the name to the circumstances. This rain is just drenching everything. The roads are getting slightly washed away, and you take refuge into this inn called the Poncho, which isn't terribly busy. It's a very small village. There seems to be just a handful of patrons in there. Mostly the farmers are all staying at their homes. But you see that there is a kind of barkeep who's kind of serving the food and drinks to anyone who is in here. He introduces himself as Osiris and takes kind of your orders if you wanted to get a hot meal or any beverages of your choice. But it seems to be that you are just about the only adventurers that are in here, the only wandering travelers. Um, and whether you guys know each other or this is the first time is completely up to you. But you see pretty much the empty room in front of you with tables, many with which have chairs still upside down, standing on the tables to just kind of keep space open and floors clean. But Isabelle, you see Loki, and Loki, Isabelle. What do you guys do?
Well, first off, if you see me, kudos, because I'm incredibly short and I know that Firbolgs are very tall. So you have to look down really low on the
Loki.
ground to see me.
So Loki is currently using his disguise self ability that Firbolg can do to make himself kind of look like an elf.
Okay. You still have a good maybe 3 or 4 feet on me, so.
You said you're a halfling?
Yep.
Oh, well, let's see if he sees her. Perception. Here.
Yeah, I'd say if Isabelle, if you're not trying to hide, then yeah, he'd see you, especially since there's not too many um, patrons in the tavern. So Osiris brings out kind of a platter of food and kind of sets it down and um, makes small talk about how the rains are fairly often coming here, and it's getting to be the point of ridiculousness how long it's been going on for probably about a week to 10 days at this point. Just slight rain off and on to now it's just a torrential storm.
And this one wasn't even me.
I've never known an elf to cause rain.
I have odd luck.
Would Isabelle or Loki be willing to travel in such bad weather? Is my question. Or would you want to basically wait out the storm? You'd basically find out from the tavern that all of like the sage from the village has basically predicted this is going to last for another 7 days of this very harsh rain. So you have the choice of basically continuing out on the road, or if you wanted to hole up here in the tavern and just get rooms and wait it out. That's completely your choices.
Hmm. Well, personally, as Isabelle, I don't much mind the rain, but if it's getting to be a bit too much rain, like if it's starting to flood,
Yeah.
then I might wait it out because I'm not the tallest individual and I don't want to drown while taking a stroll outside.
That's fair.
How about Loki?
Loki can go either way.
Okay. Well, if you follow the recommendations from any of the villagers that you talk with, they do recommend waiting it out just because of the danger of the flash floods in the area. And with the lack of other travelers out, if anything does happen, you basically would be on your own. So a couple days would basically pass. You wouldn't have necessarily a whole bunch to do, but you can stay safe and dry and kind of meander through the village a little bit, getting familiar. And then on the fourth day in the morning, as you guys are just sitting in the common room, the barkeep Osiris approaches you, and he looks very troubled. Behind him, you'd see two other young men who you would have recognized from just being in the village for a couple days, that these are brothers and relatives of the tavern keep. Their names are Carl and Steve, and they are basically the closest thing that this village has to a town guard. They're kind of farmers doubled as deputies, and essentially they are not high level adventurers at all. But they do have kind of a leather armor jerkin. They have swords at their belt, and Osiris approaches you with them kind of in tow, and he says, "I have a proposition for you both."
Okay.
How can we help you?
So, as you're well aware, the rains are inconsistent, and I have a member of our family who lives outside the village, just about a couple hours hike from here. With the rains, that obviously will take much longer because the roads are no longer in good condition. But he hasn't come to the village, which is this typical procedure when we have a storm of this magnitude. We're going to be sending out Carl and Steve here to go out and find him and bring him back, make sure that he's okay. But seeing as how you both are actual adventurers, we would like to entreat your assistance. We don't have much that we can pay, but considering you guys are staying here at my inn, I can compensate you and not charge you for your stay here for as long as you need to be. But I would be like to entreat your help on this matter to go find my nephew Hodrick.
How old is your nephew?
He's just about 18. He's built his cabin out on his own. He's been quite a man for the past 3 years, living wanting to be on his own person. He doesn't really want to be a farmer, so he set up out there and built his own cottage. But whenever something like this happens, I worry about him, and since he hasn't come in, I would like him to be checked on and brought back.
Hmm. That makes sense.
I believe we can do that.
So Carl and Steve kind of step over, and they look a little overconfident, but very inexperienced at the same time. You would be able to tell as being level 4s. These people are basically level 1 or even commoners in game terms, but they seem excited to have you with them, and they say, we can learn a lot from adventurers like you, but we know the forest, so we can lead you there, and if we need any assistance or if there's any troubles, we'd be happy to have an extra set of hands. No one else in the village is really wanting to go out in this weather.
Can I roll to understand what level they are, or is it just that obvious?
Um, you would, yeah. If you wanted to be able to tell, they basically have commoner stats, so that's tens and everything. They have 10 hit points. They have a sword and armor, so that would be a 12 defense, and then they would have a +2 proficiency bonus essentially. So they're pretty weak when it comes to combat, but they do have some gear essentially.
All right. So I, as Isabelle, how tall are both of them? Like, if you could give me a ballpark figure.
5'6" and 5'8". Carl's 5'6", Steve 5'8".
I look at them both and I ask very politely, so would you say you're both very confident fellows?
Oh, absolutely, Carl says. We're the closest thing this town has for a town guard. We put up with quite a few scuffles in our time. And they don't
I
look that
look
old. They're like 20 years old.
I look Carl in the eyes and I tell him, where I come from, we have a saying about confidence.
Oh?
It is the food of the wise man and the liquor of the fool. So are you a wise man or are you a fool?
Oh, I like this one.
He looks completely baffled and kind of dumbstruck. Steve kind of interjects for Carl and says, I don't necessarily want to pretend to be either of those. We do the best that we can, but you seem much more well-traveled than I have. I will admit that.
Isabelle kind of like clasps her tiny chin, looks at them and goes, oh, so you're the wise man and you're the fool. Got it. Just making sure.
I like this one very much. She's quite feisty.
Well, we would be very happy to have your assistance, Osiris says. Hodrick is, quite honestly, out of those options, he would be the fool. So I fear he needs rescuing out there. In these regions, are you new to Nerria?
I've been around, but this place is relatively new.
So let me explain one thing that you will want to be aware of. We haven't had any issues here ourselves in our village, but Nerria has been having sparks of dungeons appearing all over the land, and as much as the militias and the King's Guard have been able to go in and remove these dungeons, there are sometimes ones that open up and allow monstrosities into our land, and we've been unaffected for the most part, but I worry with the amount of rain this storm has been going on for. Normally it's a 3-day stretch, and this is going on now closer to a week. I would be very careful out there in the wilds. The forest, the cabin's not far from here, but just be very careful.
That is entirely understandable, sir. And was it Carl that I called the fool?
Yes, Carl is the one that was called the fool.
So I kind of take a step closer to Carl and extend my hand and say, you may see fool as an insult, but I see fool as endless potential. It means you have room to learn. You may not be one of wisdom, but the fool has a lot of places they can go because they don't know what they can do just yet. I look forward to venturing with you and your brethren Steve here.
Roll a persuasion check real quick.
Okay.
So he seems kind of dazzled by your words, and previously having taken maybe a little bit of offense, youthful offense at being called the fool, now he just seems kind of like, this little lady is quite the spark. I really do like her. It's kind of like the look that he has on his face.
All right.
Now, I would like both of you to select which of your companion you would like to be in control of, as you'll get them as retainers.
I will let
Be-
the lovely lady choose first.
because I just gave him this pep talk, I guess I'll choose Carl. As I just said, the fool has room to grow. So my inclination would be to choose Steve, but oh my god, he changed his name to the fool. But the fool has room to grow, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and choose to be controlling Carl over Steve.
Okay, fantastic. So, if you guys want to like mix and match through that, but I want you both to have kind of your own little NPC that you can direct and have doing something. We are going to essentially have you guys ship out now. So they are equipped with kind of travel cloaks, which you guys can have. That's essentially weatherproof, kind of leatherish style cloaks where the rain just kind of pours off. They are also very warm, and they are kind of a greenish brown, so great for kind of being woodsmen, if you will. You guys can all gain a cloak of survival, which will give you a +1 bonus when equipped.
Okay.
All
Plus one
right.
bonus to
Survival.
survival. Okay.
And then they would essentially lead you out into the rain, and it's morning time, so the sun is barred behind the clouds, but you do have daylight. The roads are filled with puddles. They've kind of these kind of trails of water have woven their own little ditch on the sides, and you're able to kind of just move out into the village and proceed down the trail. Actually, let me grab your retainers since I didn't have those originally. Can you guys see on the top right portion of the map where you guys are?
Upper right, you said?
Yep.
Yep.
There we are.
Okay.
I
So,
apologize if I'm not talking as much at the moment. I am working on spells real quick.
oh, no worries.
So he's just kind of like being a silent observer right now, just like, I like this one. She's quite spunky and smart.
Yep.
She'll be fun to play with.
The two men from the village are also likewise entertained. Despite the rain, you guys are able to set out with a kind of happy start essentially. And as you leave the village and you're proceeding down to the town or the roads, you find up ahead the entire road has been washed over by kind of a flash flood river, and you are no longer able to proceed on the main way, which goes to the cabin. You will all need to roll a survival check to be able to find a alternate route.
Okay, and we're both wearing Cloak of Survival, or do we have to take a turn to equip it?
Oh, no, you're not in combat or anything, so you can just keep add that +1 to your normal survival roll,
All right.
as it keeps you dry and warm in these treacherous conditions, and so you feel extra motivated to roll your survival.
Let me. Survival. So that'll be 21.
Okay, fantastic.
Mine was not good. I'm very small.
So, Loki, what are you still doing, like an illusion form of an elf, or are you looking like a
Oh
Firbolg?
no. Basically, he'll like kind of. He's kind of got his hood up at the moment. Is it still like downpouring?
Yes, it's non-stop
So
downpour
he's kind
rain.
of got his hood up. He just seems a bit taller than he did yesterday, or the day before, whatever.
So you are able to kind of go off the trail a little bit. You go upstream, kind of where this river has kind of just diverted itself and is pouring over the road. You could probably try to just go over it because it's 2 feet deep, but just because of the rapids, it would be a little bit rough for well, wrong menu for your companion. So you'd basically just go up the river a little bit till you find a log that's fallen over, and you're able to cross over the stream back to the other side and get back to the road. And as you are proceeding into the forest, what are all your passive perceptions?
My
Passive
passive
perception.
perception. Mine is 13.
13.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, it's 15.
Okay, if it's a 15, Isabelle, you'll hear on the wind the sound of wolves howling.
Mm,
Oh boy.
Yeah, perception 13.
Yeah. And then you're able to kind of pick up on this game trail going down on the map. You can basically go down to that trail and just follow it as far as you would like. You want to follow it through the kind of double bend on the bottom and go all the way up to the top, or the left side?
Hmm.
Okay.
Which way do you want to go, Loki?
Give me a sec. Alright, so there are 2 paths.
Yeah, I'll move you guys over to where they're at. Because you're right about at this fork in the road when you hear the wolves kind of crying, howling.
Where does it sound like the wolves are coming from?
You would have to roll active perception.
Alright. Perception. Not bad.
Okay. So you can tell that they're coming from the left path, and they seem to be getting closer.
Well, we seem to have wolves approaching from the left here. We can either take them on, or we can avoid them.
Hmm. Well, I don't think we can tell how many wolves there are just from listening.
Yeah, as far as you could tell, it sounded like a pack of wolves.
Hmm. I feel like, while fighting the wolves might have some merit to it, I think we should focus on the task at hand and deal with whatever comes our way.
The 2 men with you kind of look disgruntled a little bit at the thought of the wolves out here, and they said, "Yes, it's not too much further to the cabin. Um, we should be prepared just in case. The wolves around here are not usually out in this weather. They're usually all holed up. Something must be wrong."
Indeed, with this weather, it's not like a. I don't know about your wolves, but I mean, just from what you're saying, it does indeed make sense. It would be off-putting, especially with how treacherous the rain is outside right now.
Okay. So you guys want to go north to head back up to towards the cabin and where the trail is?
It is
Might
our
not hurt.
objective.
What was that?
It is our objective.
Okay. So as you begin to move forwards, you begin to hear the sound of movement coming up from the trees behind you, and the howl of wolves do get louder as the pack kind of bursts through the trees. Just because you guys are still fairly close, I would like you all to roll initiatives.
Okay.
Initiative. Oof. Come on, Loki, you can do better than that.
Okay, so one initiative.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Let's...
Okay, Isabelle got a 10. Loki got a 10. Okay. So yeah, so these wolves are bursting down this other path. They come up basically right behind you. All of the wolves breaking cover from the trees, and they just stop and look up at you from the back. You'd probably actually have gotten a little bit further just because you were aware of them as you started up faster. But Isabelle and Loki, as you turn around, you would see what looks to be these 8 to 9 wolves all just bursting down the path, and then they stop in their tracks and look over at you.
Can I attempt an animal handling?
How do you want to do that?
Well, Firbolgs are pretty good with talking to animals because they have the speech of beast and plant. You have the ability to communicate in a limited manner with beast and plants. They can understand the meaning of your words, though you have no special ability to understand them in return. You have advantage on charisma checks you make to influence them.
Okay, yeah. Just tell me what you want to say to it.
Easy now. He's gonna slowly reach down. I'm gonna roll a survival to see if he can pick up a stick.
Yeah, I mean, there's sticks there. You don't need to roll for that. You'd just be able to grab one.
And just kind of like waves it. Easy now, guys. Look, don't you want the stick? And he's going to throw it.
Now, did I understand you can say this in basically a language that the wolf can understand, or is it just you're speaking common and then the wolf knows what you're meaning?
They can understand his meaning from speech of the beast and plant. You have ability to communicate in a limited manner with beasts and plants. They can understand the meaning of your words, though you have no special ability to understand them.
Okay, so yeah, the wolf pack is kind of just frozen looking at you as you kind of toss the stick over. Behind you, your guards there. Did you roll double 20 or double 18s?
I did.
You're like rolling nothing but 20s today. Can you tell me what you're trying, what Steve and Carl, what did you want them to be doing? Otherwise, they're going to start panicking.
He tells them remain calm as he's like picking up the stick and like does the communication with them and throwing the stick.
So Loki, roll a persuasion. What about Carl? Is Isabelle doing anything for him?
I mean no offense by this, but it benefits me to hide behind Carl because of my naturally stealthy feet. As a halfling, I can attempt to hide when I'm obscured by a creature that is at least one size larger than me. He's technically medium, I am small. I hide behind him and tell him if things go bad, I will save you. Just give me cover.
That's fantastic. Okay, so that doesn't sound like he's going to be necessarily super brave, so he's gonna have to roll his own check. You do roll persuasion, Loki?
Is this persuasion for the wolves or for the guys?
For the guy, just because Steve is otherwise going to be panicking a little bit.
Alright, persuasion.
Oh no.
Okay. So he...
Okay, I'd like to play my lute to inspire Loki to roll better.
Okay, let's see, so... That would pretty much just be Bardic Inspiration, correct?
Yeah, Bardic Inspiration.
So go ahead and just do a quick jig on your lute, and then Loki, if you want to add, was it 1d6 or 1d8?
It's 1d6 because I'm level 4. I think it's 1d6, yeah. Let me double check to be sure. The dice for it is
Level 4, Bardic Inspiration.
It's a d6 because it becomes a d8 at the 5th level and I'm only level 4.
Okay. There we go.
Yep, with a 16, Steve looks like he's about to like start running, and then you say, calm down, and you're getting the stick, and he kind of freezes in place, and doesn't say anything, but he looks very tense. And then as you grab this stick and you tell them, like, go fetch, and you just toss it over, two of the wolves up here, they actually kind of make a start for it, and then they realize that you're just playing a game with them, and they kind of stop, but they're not attacking you. These ones all kind of ship forwards as well, and then the largest one, which as it kind of comes closer, you can see it has glowing red eyes. It addresses you and speaks in common. The floods are coming.
So what is coming?
Who?
The flood.
Oh, it's a thing.
And then it is actually going to continue to run away, to which the wolf pack begins to follow, and they run off into the trees, back the direction that you came. What do you do?
Just happened.
That's not good.
Let's get to the cabin, make sure everything's okay, and get them out of there.
We might have to hold up in the cabin if the flood gets too bad, though.
True.
So as you hear the wolves retreating into the forest and they kind of disappear from view, the two guys are just shocked at what they just saw, and the one in front, Carl, says, Did that wolf just speak?
Yes,
Yeah,
Carl.
it happens sometimes.
You'll learn anything is possible when you go outside.
Also when there's magic involved.
That too. But mostly going outside changes a lot of what you've learned about the world.
I feel like we've been in quarantine so long we haven't ever been outside. And they are very startled, shocked, on edge, and they will follow your lead. If you want to proceed, just kind of hastily continuing up the trail to the cabin.
Yes.
At this point, I can walk in front of Carl now because there's no danger. I was just trying to save scared because I'm very small and wolves could make a very quick meal of me.
It looks like...
Loki would not let that happen.
What was that?
I said Loki would not have let that happen.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm just trying to be careful, instincts and all.
Oh yeah.
My tiny halfling instincts.
Yeah, so you can definitely tell, especially Loki with such a high animal check to see, the wolves definitely would have come up and attacked you if you hadn't been able to kind of address it, and then the fact that their leader, which is definitely not normal, was more interested in getting out of the forest than eating. So you guys are left alone in the woods once again, the torrential rains just kind of landing kind of all around you. Everything's soaked and slimy and wet, puddles all over the ground. What do you do? You want to just...
Well, let me ask real quick. Is everyone still relatively tense?
Yes. At least the two NPCs are.
I'm gonna tell a joke to cheer them up.
Yes.
Do you have a joke, or do you just want to roll for it?
No, I have jokes. I have tons of jokes. I can't guarantee if they're good jokes, so to speak, but I'll tell a joke. Hey, Carl. I kind of like tug at his cloak. Carl.
Well, what is it?
Knock, knock.
What?
Knock, knock. It's a joke.
Then Steve says
Knock,
from next
knock.
to you, kind of up ahead, "Who's there?"
Dishes.
Dishes? Carl says, and then Steve
Dishes.
says, "Dishes who?"
Dish is a very bad joke. I'm sorry.
And then Steve kind of like spurts with laughter a little bit from up ahead and snorts. Carl just looks confused. And then he's like, "Oh."
So Loki kind of leans in. So a sheep, a drum, and a snake fall off a cliff. But
Ah, that's such a good one. Two men walk into a bar. I walk underneath it.
Loki laughs at that one.
Both of the guys are just like clueless and like, What's going on? What is this humor that we've never heard of?
Hmm.
Hang on, I got one here. Bear with me, sorry. Go ahead and tell another joke while I find this one real quick.
Okay. What is the difference between a tabaxi and a comma?
What's a comma? Carlos asks.
I kind of just like look over Steve. What's the difference between a cat and a comma? Tabaxi and a comma.
The the color?
One has paws at the end of its claws, and one has claws at the end of its paws.
He tries to like force a laugh, but you can tell he doesn't know what one of the monsters is that you're talking about.
Oh, here's one for you. Heard from the town crier this morning that an unknown man pickpocketed a midget. How could anyone stoop that low?
They both laugh at that one. And as you guys have kind of eased the situation, you can both have inspiration for that. However, both the retainers, they do not get inspiration because they didn't understand half of the jokes. But you both can get an inspiration. And then I would like you to roll perception.
14.
13.
Okay, so you both can hear in the distance coming from kind of your right-hand side, which on the map would be left if since you're all facing down, whatever. But you hear the sound of rushing water, almost like a waterfall that seems to be approaching very rapidly. What do you do?
So you said water approaching rapidly?
Yes, it sounds like rushing rapids or perhaps like a waterfall. It sounds like an immense flow of water coming in your direction.
My response is very simple. I look at Loki and I ask, do you think we're going to have to cross a river?
Possibly.
Do you think that there's a bridge?
Hopefully.
What if there's not?
Well, then, depending on how bad the water's rushing, we make one.
Okay, just in case there is no bridge and we can't make one, I look to Carl and ask him, will you please carry me?
Aww.
Of course I can carry you. I am strong. I can do that. And then Steve is just looking out into the woods, like trying to think of what that noise is coming from.
Thank you, Carl. You're greatly appreciated in ways you don't know.
So
I'm kind of just like dejectedly looking at the ground, just.
So he tries to hoist you up and he gets you on kind of like a piggyback ride type thing, but he is kind of staggering a little bit, and you can tell he's not used to carrying someone. The noise is rapidly approaching. With your 14 and 13s, you can actually see that in like just around kind of the bend in the forest with the trees, you see a tidal wave of muddy water with rocks and logs and branches and soil all just churned up. This huge flash flood of water is approaching you, and with the speed of how it is, you basically have about one round of time to react before it hits.
About how much water is there?
Probably about a 10-foot wall of this water, or maybe more like 6 foot, I guess would probably be more realistic.
I might have something to help with this.
Okay, what do you do?
Give me 1 second. I need to see how much this can do. Bear with me a second. Because, depending on how much it can do, create, destroy water.
Oh, that's smart. Can I also say that while Loki is looking for that real quick, like, I'm on like Carl's shoulders, right?
Yes.
I'm very, very happy to feel so tall. And I'm kind of like holding onto his shoulders with like my legs and my hands, and I just point forward and go onward.
Towards
So
the
I can
water.
destroy up to 10 gallons of water.
This is basically a river, so you might be able to buy yourself around with that. But there's enough to where it's gonna slam you against a mud right away after that.
Yeah. So basically, he will like cast that and tells the others start running.
Okay. So as you stretch forth your hand to describe kind of how this spell works, as the water rapids are kind of just rushing towards you in this typhoon of water.
Basically, the like part of the water starts to just like evaporate.
Okay. Okay, and then you start to run in the opposite direction.
Yes.
Okay. What about Isabelle and Carl?
Carl's gonna follow, and I'm gonna hold on tight.
Okay. Both of you roll an athletics check.
Me as well.
Yes.
So basically, he's gonna be like right behind them. So athletics, athletics. Ah,
Okay, so you both are basically retreating as fast as you possibly can as these rapids are almost upon you. Loki reaches back and casts his spell, burning up some of the water, and it just kind of evaporates, buying you just a little bit more time, but the waters just continue to slursh forwards. You have basically one more round as before they are going to be upon you. Even with dashing, you will not be able to outrun the flood.
let's see. I cast Create Destroy Water a second time.
Okay. I messed up my map. Give me 1 second. There we go.
He's trying to buy him as much time as he can.
Okay. Steve at this point kind of is running behind you as you're casting your spell. He's going to try to actually climb a tree to get out of the way of the rapids. So he kind of separates off and jumps up, and then immediately slips on the branch and falls back on his prone onto his back in the mud. It's a big squirch.
Oh, Carl.
No, that was Steve.
Oh, Steve. Oh no, Steve.
God damn it! Loki runs back, and he's going to literally just grab him by the collar and yank him up and shove him forward.
Okay. Roll an athletics check again.
Keep running. He has power. Loki has powerful build, so he just yanks him up.
Yeah. Roll a quick athletics check to see if you can do that without spending any precious time.
You also have the bonus inspiration die from the jokes earlier. Don't forget that.
Athletics. We'll go ahead and use that just to make sure we can keep going.
Yeah, definitely. You almost like catch him before he hits the ground almost, and just yank him back to his feet. He would respond, "We gotta get to high ground!" And then I believe you casted the spell a second time, correct?
I did.
So that buys you another round. So the water is almost upon you, and it burns back another couple feet, giving you extra precious seconds.
All right.
Let me ask a question real quick. Do you want us to rely only on the spells we have on our spell list, or can I use any bard spell right now?
For this, you can use whichever one that you want.
All right.
Just tell me how you want to escape this typhoon.
Because I could also cast the same water spell, I think. But I want to see if I can cast something else. So I'm just going to look real quick and see. Hmm. I would like to cast Shape Water.
Okay.
Ooh.
And
Very
I'm going
nice.
to freeze it.
Okay. Shape water.
Oh wait, Bards can't cast that. Sorry, never mind. Oh, that sucks. Bards can't cast that. Okay.
Oh, it's a
I
druid
guess
spell.
I'll also try to destroy the water as well.
Okay. With a fling of your hand, you cast forth this magic. Some of the water burns back, revealing just some rotten timbers and broken pieces of wood, and dirt just kind of falls to the ground, only to be kind of covered back over by the next onslaught of the wave as it's rolling towards you. You have basically 2 rounds before the water's on you because of how far you burned it back. Steve is shouting about getting to high ground. Carl is trying to run as fast as he can with Isabelle on his shoulders at this point. Um, what do you both do?
Hmm.
He Loki will offer to help carry Isabella if she will allow it.
I look at you. I look at Carl. Look at you, and I'm just like, I reach my hands up, like, please.
So he's going to gently take her and like kind of like princess carry her in one arm, essentially. Because
Oh, my hero.
um yeah, so
Okay.
I'm doing that as they run, so he has that free hand to cast as he needs.
Okay. And then are you just kind of running straight, or are you going to try to seek anything else, or just kind of outrun the water?
Going to see if we can find higher ground.
Okay. So that would be just rolling for survival to try to see if there's low-hanging branches on a sturdy tree, or climbing up one of the higher areas, like up a mud bank or something like that.
Ooh.
So with a 9, that's a failure. You can see their stuff, but nothing you can get to within the next, couple seconds of running. Um, is there anything else you guys want to try, or otherwise the water continues to roll towards you, and you have one more round before it hits now at this point.
Did Elizabeth want to
Yeah, if you want to try to
try
roll
making
survival as well to try to take a look, you can. Or if you prefer perception, you can try to see something like a branch or something like that. Whatever, any skill that you can think to utilize, you can feel free to roll and just tell me how you're using it.
I'll roll for perception real quick.
Okay. That's a so 12.
Yeah.
So you can see there's a branch up ahead that you might be able to hoist yourself up onto, just barely out of reach of where the water's going to hit. However, it's going to take you another round to get there, so you'll be there basically right as the water's beginning to hit. So you proceed forwards towards that branch. The water is coming rushing up behind you. You can just feel the water beginning to hit Carl and Steve. If you guys want to try to catch onto the branch and hoist yourselves up.
Okay.
So he's going to help by lifting her up so she can at least get to high ground.
Okay, so just athletics with advantage for Isabelle.
All right. Athletics with advantage.
Yes, because you're getting boosted up by Loki.
All right, with advantage. So
And then Loki, if you want to roll for Steve, and then Isabelle for Carl to see if they can climb up as well.
Alright,
All right.
so
What
that
bonuses
just
do I get to Carl?
They get +0. They're just commoners.
Okay. Oh,
Ah,
Carl.
no.
So they try to make a leap, and the water hits them and sucks them back down into the rapid. Loki, how about yourself? What are you doing? So you boosted Isabelle up. You basically have your last attempt before the water hits, unless you have any other spells you can cast.
He's going to cast Crit Destroy Water to give him a little bit extra time
Okay,
at second level
yep.
to destroy an additional goblin.
Okay, so so that's a higher spell than normal.
Yes.
Okay, so you can burn back the water then 2 rounds essentially. So Carl and Steve stumbled to the ground, the water about to cover them, and it just evaporates in an instant, burning back further than it did before. They look back in surprise and begin to stumble back to their feet to try to climb up as you bought extra precious seconds.
I will throw down some rope and tie it. Okay, so first I'll tie the rope to a branch, and then I'll toss it down to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you knot this rope down and toss it down, Carl immediately tries to grab it and just begins to climb up instead of using his athletics to jump, and so he climbs up there, holds onto the branch, and gets up there next to you. Steve, having gotten back to his feet, Loki, what is Steve gonna do?
He's gonna tell Steve, get your ass up the tree now.
Okay.
I scream, "You can do it!"
So he jumps, he
He's going to-
fails.
So, with him failing, Loki's just gonna pick him up and try to assist.
Okay, yeah, give him advantage.
With advantage.
Yep. So with him, you kind of grab him by the leg and not even boosting him from the foot. You just lift him by the leg, and he gets tall enough to just grab onto the branch and pull himself up. At this point, the water rapids begin to rush forwards once again. However, because you did second level, you have 6 seconds left before it is upon you. Loki, you're the last one on the bottom. And just with a mighty leap, you jump up, grab it, pull yourself up so you can straddle it with both arms and legs, and the water roars beneath you as the flood water just churns everything up in its path and carves out a new riverbed through this forest as the brown, murky water pours past. You're not supposed to be.
Just imagine that last second just jumping and grabbing onto the branch as the water flies beneath them.
Perfect. So you're able to stay there for what feels like only seconds, but turns into a minute, maybe a little bit more, and then the flood water begins to sink back down as it lowers, and it kind of loses momentum, and the flash flood kind of settles down a little bit more until it's more manageable, and you sit at the top of the branch, safe, having escaped the flood.
This
Carl
is
and
just like
Steve
that
are
one
panting.
puppet show I saw called Winnie the Pooh, where it flooded horribly.
Is that the one with the dire bear?
The dire bear, yes, the one who wore the really adorable red tunic.
Oh, I like that show, Carl says, and then Steve's very confused.
I look at Carl. I'm not surprised.
I grew up with Winnie the Pooh.
I personally felt very heavily for the plight of the sweet little pygmy creature Piglet.
I like the were-tiger, I guess, says Steve.
I can see that too.
The afternoon, or it's probably almost afternoon at this point, is feeling a little bit less miserable as you're perched up in the tree branch. The flash flood below you is kind of settled down to the point where if you wanted to descend back down into the tree and try to pick your way back through, you will not take any damage from it. You'll just have to move at half speed to kind of move against the
While
stream.
they were in the tree, was that considered a rest for them?
If you want to take a short rest up here, you absolutely can. Though I don't think anyone took damage.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is the ground beneath the tree still flooded with water?
It's flooded, but it's more like it's not as high, so it's probably like knee deep to ankle deep in different portions depending on where it is. So you're feeling this flow of water against you, which is cutting your movement down to half speed. But it's not like the flood, which would have given you damage and knocked you up against a bunch of stuff and potentially drowned you.
I have a
Ankle to
possibly
knee
odd
deep to-
question. Okay, no, you go. You go first, Loki.
I was just gonna say, ankle to knee deep to a halfling is different to ankle to knee deep to a human or Firbolg.
This is fair.
That's all.
This is
So
fair.
which ankle to knee deep is it? Is it to the halfling or to the Firbolg and the humans?
So it depends on kind of the ground that you're on. So mechanically, it's just giving you half movement. So for story, you can basically navigate to the portions that aren't as deep and just kind of skirting around the worst of it and just wading through the shallower flow. But it's essentially just walking through a puddle that's pulling against you the opposite direction. So if you're not careful, it could suck out the ground from beneath you like a riptide. But you can still progress through it, and it's just going to be you'll get wet, and then you'll just have to be careful.
So
All
when
right.
it comes to when it comes to getting down from the tree, Loki will get down first, and then help the others down, and helping Elizabeth down last and carrying her.
Yep. And then
So she doesn't have to go through water.
yeah, the rope that you put definitely helps out with that. Also, Steve and Carl can get down no problem. Loki's, Isabelle, you're all able to descend and then move back towards the path until you realize there is no more path. This water has carved out all the different trails that were. There's no more game trails, so you will need to roll one more survival check to try to get back on track. Loki is not going to even need any help with
I'm a different story.
yeah. So, Isabelle, you're still on Loki's shoulders,
Okay.
or no?
I mean, like, if Loki will let me on his shoulders, I'll be on Loki's shoulders. And while we're walking, I want to ask Loki a question.
Go for it.
Loki, do you think that the flood will get worse the farther we go?
It's very possible.
Do you know how to make a boat? Or a raft, at least?
He grins at this. He has carpenter's tools.
Because I can navigate a boat, I think. Can I navigate a boat? I can't. I was looking at the wrong thing. Wrong character. I was just saying, maybe a raft would be in our best interest.
How would we go about making a raft in this weather? Steve says.
I mean, like, Isabelle kind of just, like, looks at you and looks around. You know you have carpenter tools, yes?
Yes.
We're in a forest. There are trees. We have rope. It is not difficult to make a raft, sir.
He looks dejected, and Carl just stays quiet and is happy he didn't say anything.
I look at Loki and I kind of look at Carl and I ask politely, is there more than one fool here? Or did you just forget that making a raft is nothing more than rope and branches?
Oh no, Loki was like when she suggested a raft, Loki's like said, "I have tools."
But then you've also asked me how we would go about making one in the forest, which is full of wood.
It just seems
Loki-
to me like if we were gonna make a boat, like I imagine like a nice fishing vessel or something, and we don't have a shop or a space for it, and it's raining, and I guess I'm just overthinking it.
Loki's just gonna smack him
boat?
upside the head.
A boat would be very ideal, but a raft is the least we could do if it gets worse.
Yeah, I could try that. What do you need us to do? Says Carl.
We need a bunch of like big I'm kind of like on here. I'm still like on your shoulders, but I reach my arms out in front and I go, we need logs like bigger than this, and I'm 2'4", so my arms like go so far, like
kind of like. Sorry, I just imagine she kind of just like looks at her hands like, no, not quite that big. Looks to Loki, just takes his arms and just spreads them out.
that big, this big. We need things this big, and I had rope, but we left it on the tree, I think.
I mean,
I would imagine.
you could have probably regained it. It was the branch wasn't that high, so you could have had Carl just untie it because he's I think or Steve was the taller one, whatever. But you could have
Yeah.
regained that rope if you wanted to, which I
So
assumed you did.
I have rope. We need wood.
Okay. Well, we'll go look for some, and they both kind of split off, and they return a little bit later. Steve actually has dragging a pretty decent sized trunk. Carl's coming back empty-handed, and he's like, "I tried, but there's no everything's wet or rotted or just too small." But Steve does bring back supplies that you or materials that you could use to craft.
Okay.
So Loki,
I'm just like, oh, Carl.
do you have a proficiency with your tools, and you have the tools themselves?
I do,
So you can
because it
go.
comes with my background.
Yep. So you can go ahead and just roll. I think that would be.
Um,
I'd say wisdom for this one, just because even though intelligence is like you're going to school for it, because you're out in the wild, you kind of have to jimmy rig stuff. I think that'd be more wisdom. So roll a wisdom check, but then add your proficiency bonus twice.
okay, so just a straight up wisdom.
I think that's probably the best way to do it, because I don't think there's actually a crafting skill. I guess you could use sleight of hand and then add your proficiency bonus twice.
Let's see.
I would also argue. I'm curious. So you said Steve found a bunch of wood. Did he find like a very big fat like log, or just a bunch of wood?
No, I was imagining he's bringing back like two like trunks that are about the right size, one in each hand. He's just dragging.
If the logs are wide enough, we could just cut it in half and hollow it out.
Yeah, if you wanted to try to do that, you can make 2 canoes with them.
So Loki does have a hand axe that they can get more trees if need be, if they have the time.
Yes, but we already have 2 big logs in front of us. We could just cut one in half and hollow it out.
True.
Yeah, and you've got the 4 people, so you can put 2 people on each one. So if you want to do that,
And he said it's double proficiency.
yeah, because if I remember correctly, your tools give you your proficiency bonus, and then being proficient gives it to you again. Kind of like how the rogues get double proficiency on stuff. It's kind of works the same way.
So he kind of gets started on it.
Yep. So it would take you probably, I'd say at least the better part of an hour, if not more, to kind of get it. But you can make basically the first canoe, and in that time period, nothing really happens except for just the continuous rain. You don't encounter a second flood or anything like that, but you're able to kind of make a boat with one of the into one of the
And for
canoes.
the second one,
Yep, and then you do so with the second. So Steve and Carl this time are kind of helping out as best as possible. I'm sure Isabelle as well. But you can manufacture these 2 little canoes, and then you can easily, like in that time, I'm sure maybe Isabelle, you go find something you can use as an oar or paddle.
yeah, I was going to suggest if we could find some large sticks, he can craft an oar out of them.
Yep, for sure.
A couple
So
oars.
we'll just include that within the 2 rolls. So you now have 2 functioning canoes. How do you want to split your party? PCs in one, NPCs in the other, or 50-50?
I'm gonna pull. I'm gonna ask Carl if he can craft and craft some oars, while I ask Loki what he thinks. Like aside, like Carl and Steve, I kind of asked them if they can craft set oars in discussion, and ask Loki what he thinks because of the way things have been so far.
Okay.
Well,
So he rolls an 8. So he's able to get some branches and kind of tries to tie them all together, and it looks more like a broom, but it can work. It's just not that great.
All right, so I'm kind of like I guess I'm on the ground right now, standing up. So I kind of like have to motion like Loki to kind of like bend down and hunch over to talk to me.
To your height. Are you talking about for who goes in which canoe?
Yes.
I would recommend you in with mine because I can row us no problem. If
I
you're
have
with,
no doubts about that. I worry about Steve and Carl though.
we will tie a rope to their canoe and have theirs behind ours.
All right. I like that idea better. I was just worried about the possibility of
Them getting
them.
separated.
Yes.
I thought of that as well.
Okay. So you guys want to put your canoes to the test?
So before that, okay. So I have some pittons in my bag,
Mhm.
and I want to shove the pittons, like 2 of them, to the front of their canoe, and then 2 pittons into the back of our canoe, and then tie them together.
Okay. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. So with the forest floor being basically this big puddle of water, you can easily find areas that are on the deeper ends and just kind of launch your canoes in and start paddling upstream. Um, Carl and Steve, Carl will probably be in the front and Steve in the back because of his longer legs, and then I imagine Loki in back and Isabelle in front.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, also Loki. We should also put an extra pitton or 2 on the front of our canoe in case we need to drag them.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you come with a set of 10, so you can put 2 on front and 2 on back of both, and you still have some left over.
Yep. So that's what we do.
Okay.
So I put a total of like 6 pittons in the canoes.
Yep. And
4 in
then
ours, 2 in there.
okay. So they get into the rafts or the canoes and shove off. Carl's actually kind of excited, and he's like, "Steve, this is the first time I've ever done something like this. This is pretty cool." And Steve looks a little bit more grumpy. Um, Complains that water is beginning to pool in the bottom of it and tries to scoop it out with his canteen or something. But you guys take to the kind of over flooded areas and begin to paddle your ways up. Roll a survival check.
Survival.
Okay, so 13. So you're able to navigate around through this almost swamp-like area now, and you begin to make your way back up. You can tell that there's the roadway beneath you that's been washed out. You're kind of on the right place to head over to, and you get to the place of the river where the cabin is, and so that right up ahead of you is once again. Oh, I didn't clean this up yet, but it is the cabin up ahead, and you can see that this water path just kind of leads right up to it, almost to the point where it's swamped over the front door, but you can essentially paddle all the way up to the cabin.
All right.
You go up.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as the canoes reach towards, you can hear crying from inside the cabin. This kind of not high pitch. It sounds more like a man's voice, but it's just someone kind of crying and sobbing from inside. The doorway's ajar, and you can see that there's light inside. Um, but otherwise, there doesn't seem to be much movement around. And you can all roll perception checks as you guys are coming up.
All right. And perception. I guess Loki's too focused on like rowing them and making sure that they are able to get there.
So while this is true, Isabelle can see from this kind of pool of water surrounding the cabin, there seems to be kind of like a wave that's moving around, almost like there's like an eel or something from inside the water, but you can't really see what that is, but there's this movement of this churn of water kind of zigzagging around the cabin area. You can see that
I
as you're
want
kind of getting close.
I want to try and add some comedy to an otherwise bleak situation by looking at Loki and doing my best quote unquote pygmy piglet impersonation and go Pooh Bear, Pooh Bear.
Loki looks up. Yes. What's up?
I point in the general direction of what I saw and say, I think we're in a pot of trouble.
Loki will stop rowing to where their canoe is slowly drifting a little bit.
Oh
He's
no.
going to, like, drifting towards the cabin. He's going to try to get a look at what is turning in the water
Yep.
while
You
he
can,
pulls out his crossbow.
yeah, as you do so and looking over the side, you can see up ahead there is definitely movement within the water, but you can't tell that there's anything there. It's muddy a little bit, but you don't see. You can still see through the layer of water for a little bit, but there's no snake. There's no animal that you can tell. Just this wiggle of almost like a stream, like a current from underneath. And it definitely looks to be something like it should be a creature, but you don't see anything inside it. So it's either something maybe invisible or something that's transparent, but you can't tell. But you do definitely see that there is something there with the 22.
I look at Loki and I ask, "Hey, should I hit it?"
Hang on a second, guys. Give me 1 sec here.
Sure.
You're good.
Alright, I am back.
Welcome back.
Alright, so there's something turning in the water.
Yes. And then you hear
I've got
crying from inside the house. The door is open and ajar, and you can see light inside. But it's otherwise completely surrounded by water.
I've got a bad
Again,
feeling about that churning.
I ask Loki if I should shoot what's in the water.
We shoot together. On 3. 1, 2. He raises his crossbow. 3.
I shoot magic missile.
Okay, magic missile auto hits it. So roll your
Yeah.
roll. Is it 1d4 or it goes to 2d4 at level 5, right?
Yeah, I think it's
So
Let me
yeah,
look at magic
or
missile.
3d. It
I
might
thought
be
it was 3.
3d4. I think actually,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
So just let me know what it is.
it's 3d4. Yeah,
Okay, and then for
I'll roll
23,
d4 3.
yeah, the 23 will definitely hit as well. So you did 8 on the arrow and sneak attack, and another 8 for the magic missile, and then it's plus 3.
Uh, for my spell modifier.
Yeah, I think magic missile is 3d4 plus 3, isn't it? Like each one is a plus 1.
Yeah. Let me double check for magic missile real quick, just to make sure we're doing this right.
Okay. I don't even know if we're gonna use the battle map.
Magic missile is 1d4 1 force damage. So yeah, plus 3. You're right.
Okay, so that's 8 plus 3 is 19 damage total between the both of you. There's a splash of water as the crossbolt kind of disappears into the water. These 3 bolts of energy, what does it look like as you cast that?
Blue missiles.
Okay, and
They're
then
just like tiny, like blue, like amorphous blobs that just kind of like shoot and hit true.
okay. Carl and Steve kind of yelp in surprise as this magic goes off, and they saw Loki readying his crossbow, and so they have their swords kind of out on their laps, still sheathed, but they can draw them out easily. But the magic startles them as they've not been accustomed to seeing stuff like that. And then recoiling out from the water, this spiral shape of liquid pops up, shouting or growling with this gurgly noise as it recoils in pain from the attacks. And you see this water creature. It doesn't necessarily look like an elemental. It looks more like a snake of some sort, but it's made out of water. Gurgles just and pops up out of the water. We'll keep your initiative, I think, from the last one, unless you want to reroll. There's only 2 of you, so you can reroll, actually. Yeah, I'm going to have you reroll, because normally when there's 5 players, it takes a bit, but for now, it's fine.
better initiative than what I had before.
I rolled a 19.
Also better initiative than before.
Someone roll a d20 for me also. Actually, I'm just gonna have Carl and Steve go on your turn. That way it'll be easier.
Do they only have swords?
They are equipped with swords and leather armor.
Okay. So they're going to be useless here.
Unless you want them
Unless
to
the
get
thing
out and
kills
fight.
them.
The shallows here is only about 3 feet deep, 3 to 4 feet in certain areas. So if they wanted to, they could go be like waist high or so in the water. But that'd be.
Yeah, I'm going to recommend that.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay in the boat.
Okay. So this monster, this water weird, pops up out of the water recoiling from the attacks, and it launches itself at the first canoe, and it doesn't attack you both. It tries to upset the canoe, so it's going to use basically smash action or slam, I mean, against the canoe itself, and is going to hit. I will have you both roll dexterity saving throws, I think, to try to maintain the canoe being steady.
Oh no.
So unfortunately, you both try to right it, but you go the same direction, and it only makes it worse. And your canoe flips over, and you are sent tumbling into the water. The water weird then begins to jump over the log and head towards the next one with the rest of its movement as you are sent floundering into the water. Isabelle. Oh, I think you're muted. So Isabelle, you hit the water and the water just splashes around you, submerge and pop up a moment later. Since you're a halfling, it's probably up to about your neck or a little bit like chin even, but you could stand if you find kind of a root or something and kind of get closer to the bank to stand on. But what do you do?
What was happening now?
Did sorry if you didn't hear. So the water weird flips your canoe over essentially, jumps into the water again towards Steve and Carl's canoe next, and as you both hit the water, you just get a face full of this muck and sludgy water. Isabelle is probably up to her neck or chin, but you can stand. It's not going to drown you unless you're knocked prone or something like that. But you are surrounded and enveloped with this cold water. Loki as well. But Isabelle, what do you do?
Isabelle? If you're talking, we can't hear you.
I wonder if it's audio issue again. Try disconnecting from the Discord, and then just rejoining it. We've had this happen before. I don't know if it just times out sometimes. Testing, testing.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes. Loud and clear.
Not sure why
Oh,
the
God.
Discord does that, but we've done that. It's so many games that we've played. It's sometimes people just mute out and they can't hear, and we can't hear them. And just exiting and rejoining it sometimes fixes it. So no clue why that happens, but
I mean, I was just gonna say that we were hit so hard by that sea serpent, whatever, that I just completely lost connection. I went temporarily deaf, guys. Sorry.
yeah. I mean,
Just shit.
so you're floundering in the water. What do you do?
Uh, get out to the nearest part of patch of grass.
Okay. Yeah. So basically where your mini is up there, you kind of pull yourself up onto the bank where it's elevated and dry.
Okay. And it's my turn in combat.
Yep. You're next.
All right. What is the big baddie's intelligence right now?
The water creature.
Yes.
You'd probably have to roll either an Arcana or Nature or History, anything that you can think of in a skill that would explain why you would know about what this is.
I will roll animal handling to find out.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you can tell that whatever this creature is, looks to be intelligent. It's not just like a force of nature. It looks like a water serpent, but it's made completely out of water. But it seems to be targeting the canoes first because it knows you guys are in a vehicle essentially, and so it's trying to get it out.
You said this thing
All
is
right.
made of water, right?
Yes, it's transparent, but it's definitely the water has shape. Think of like Avatar, The Last Airbender, when Katara is waterbending. It kind of looks like that, except more
Okay, so
snake-like at the end.
but it is intelligent, correct?
Yes, as far as you can see, it definitely has the intelligence of an animal.
I'm going to cast vicious mockery on it.
Okay,
Yay.
what do you say?
All right, and just so a heads up, you need to roll at least a 13 on a wisdom saving throw to see if you're affected by it, I think.
Yep, with it doesn't have a wisdom bonus, but it rolled a 13.
Okay. So I scream to the water creature that that it's splashing around and throwing a tantrum isn't going to do very much for it because I'm used to dealing with incorrigible infants.
Some of the adult variety, even.
Looking toward Carl.
Okay, so you pull yourself up onto the land, and you don't shout at it essentially, or you do.
No, I shout it. I want everyone to hear me say that.
Perfect. And then that pretty much, unless you have a bonus action you want to do, then that would be to Loki.
Mm,
All right.
I don't have
I'm
anything else to do.
Okay, so Loki.
gonna start with an Arcana to see if I think that create destroy water would do anything to this thing.
So this is with an Arcana. It's made completely out of water. It is basically invisible while in the water, but since it's exposed and out, you can definitely see the shape of it and everything. If you were to create or destroy water, you think this would probably be extremely bad for this creature. It's water bound. So if the water that it's bound to is destroyed, it cannot live. That's what you would know with a natural 20.
Oh, this level 2, create destroy water.
Okay. And so, and how much water does that destroy?
Let's see, create destroy water at does 10 gallons, and at a high level it does an additional 10 gallon. So that's 20 gallons.
Okay. I'm just gonna Google how many gallons is in a pond, just to get an idea for reference, and then see. So if it's 16 feet wide, 8 feet long by 4 feet deep, that's 512 cubic feet, which is equivalent to 3,800 gallons of water for a rectangular pond. So what I'm going to do, because that's not going to auto kill it, I will give you damage for it, and if you want to direct it at the creature instead, is that fair?
Yeah, that's basically what he was playing, is directing it directly at the creature.
Okay, perfect. So let's see. Let me find another alternate spell that might be able to do. Actually, I'm just going to run it and say you do 3d8 damage to it. How's that? As you focus a level 3. Okay, and then because it's water, it will be vulnerable to that spell, so it's 18 damage. As it just recoils and constricts, and you just see a huge portion of its like gut almost explode in driplets everywhere, and it just gurgles its howl and takes the damage, splashing down into the water below. What else do you do?
you currently.
So do you want to stay in the water or take a move or bonus action?
I will. He'll tell the guys to get out of the water as he does so himself.
Okay, so you climb up onto the bank as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Isabelle, you can control Carl, and then Loki, you can control Steve. But what do you want them to do? So Loki says, "Get out of the water."
All right. I don't know who is stronger between Carl and Steve, but I think they should both be working together to get out together, just to make sure that both of them are safe.
Okay. Do you want to have them exit the canoe and try to jump onto the shore, or do you want them to try to paddle to the shore, or what are they doing?
Hmm. I feel like we should keep the canoes safe if we can.
Yes. We'll have them try to get the canoes to shore.
Okay, so they paddle over to the
Actually,
shore, or
actually, I'll have Carl hop into our canoe, Steve in the other canoe, and they're just trying to focus on keeping the canoe safe. They should actually get out of harm's way since they aren't nearly as useful as you and I are, and go to the house down that way.
okay, so your canoe is overturned, so he'd have to jump out into the water, to ride it, and then kind of climb back in. But he can use his whole turn to do so.
Okay. So Carl's gonna try and flip over the other canoe.
Okay. Just roll a acrobatics check to have, because getting into a canoe that's been overturned from the water can be challenging. So just roll an acrobatics check, just a flat d20.
Just a flat d20?
Yep. Okay.
God, Carl.
He does so, but it spins over again. Have you ever tried to get into a canoe from the water, or no?
No,
So
but I've seen cartoons.
yeah, the challenging portion is when you try to lift yourself up. If it's a really light canoe, which maybe these are wood, so they might not be, but they tend to just flip over, and then you have to ride it and then try again. And if you don't do it the correct maneuver, then it flips over and over, and it's very difficult. So he does not have experience with these. So even though it's a heavy wooden one, it flips, and he has to ride it again, and he's still in the water waist deep. Steve, is he going? What is he doing with his canoe?
If you don't have an idea, Loki, I think that Steve could overturn.
I missed what was most recently.
So sorry, not Loki. Carl is jumped out into the water waist deep and righted your canoe that got flipped, and he rotates it over and tries to lift himself up, but in doing so, he puts too much weight on it and flips it again. So he submerges, pops back up, all soaking wet, flips the canoe back to the right side, and he's going to try next turn to get back inside it, but he is currently waist deep in the water. And then what is Steve doing?
I'm just gonna roll a intelligence for Steve to see if he's smart enough to try to help. Nope.
He's probably very hesitant to get out, having seen this water. It's called a water weird. Is looking at him from like it's about to attack his boat. So he doesn't necessarily. He's probably tensed up, holding onto the sides, not sure what to do. And then I guess we'll just go to the water weird, which is going to continue on with its attack and try to flip Steve's. Steve does not get to maintain the boat. It flips, and then the water weird is going to submerge and try to constrict Steve from underwater. So that's going to be a 21 to hit him, which does 3d6 bludgeoning.
Oh no.
And that doesn't kill him, because these guys have 20 hit points, but he takes 13 points of damage, and he is restrained and pulled to the bottom of the water and grappled.
Oh no.
Isabelle. The water weird being underwater is invisible, but you can see Steve underneath, like floundering, like he's got something around his neck.
About
I'm
how
gonna
far
destroy the
away?
water.
About how far away are Steve and the water creature?
From you, they're probably like 10 feet or so, maybe 15. Definitely anything within range you wanted to do. Or if you wanted to walk over the bank 10 feet, you could be right next to it. It's about like
Hmm.
underwater 3 to 4 feet. Steve's on the bottom of the river.
Hmm. I have a I have an idea. It's not probably not a good idea, but it's an idea.
What's your idea?
I kind of want you to chuck me in the water so I can try to grapple the water creature. Or we find a way to get out of the water so I can communicate with it.
I mean, we could also destroy the water.
Hmm.
That seemed to work pretty well last time.
Yeah. I just don't want to hurt the creature. I want to communicate with it. I think this is all a big misunderstanding, and that this creature unintentionally probably caused the flood. Because we did attack it first. I'm gonna use this turn to cast Speak with Animals.
Okay.
And hopefully by my next turn, I can try to communicate with it. If not, you're chucking me, and I'm going to try to make sense of that thing.
Okay, so speaking with animals, I'm pulling that up. One moment. I'm pretty sure that's just an action to cast the spell. So you still have
It,
your turn if you wanted to move or like speak to it with that language. That doesn't cost you any actions. So you can do something this round if you want.
it is a divination spell. I'm looking at it right now, and it takes 10 and it lasts for 10 minutes.
Yep. So it's just
And
a cast of is one action, so you can do it immediately and it lasts for the 10 minutes. So
okay.
let's see. Beast can give you information. So even though it only speaks Aquan, I think that basically means you can still communicate with it. So yeah, that would work. So what do you want to do to it?
Hmm. All right. I want to. How deep is the water? You said like what was it again?
Where he's at, he probably would have dragged him down to the lowest, which is 4 feet.
Okay. I look at Loki and I put my hands up and I say, "Carry me. I'm going to talk to it."
All right. So if you will, I'm assuming then you're holding your.
Yeah, so she can finish that up after whatever you do. So
If
Loki,
you
go
will
ahead.
carefully pick her up
Okay.
and carry her over,
Okay.
he will have an action at the ready just in case.
Okay. What is your
It
held
will
action?
be once again. It will be create destroy water at a first level spell slot this turn.
Okay.
And the trigger is if this thing decides to attack.
Okay. So as and where do you move? Do you go into the water?
I
I
I go where
We're directed.
Isabelle
Okay.
points to go.
So where does Isabelle direct you to go? Do you want to go in the water, Isabelle, or do you want to be on the bank, or where?
I want him to hold me, kind of, so I'm above water, but where I can also like try to communicate with the server because I'm not tall. I don't break 4 feet,
Yeah,
so
it's
I
beyond
can't
your.
go
Yeah.
underwater. Yeah, I can't talk underwater, but I can try to communicate with it. So Loki, if you could maybe try to like pry, like if I'm on your shoulders and you pry this water creature off of Steve, I can try talking to it and we can save Steve.
Would that be an action, or can that be done as a bonus action?
Yeah. So I think I'm just having a trouble understanding. So the sequence of events is you cast speak with animals, Isabelle. You ask Loki to carry you. Where is Loki taking you again? Is he on the bank or the water?
He's in the water.
Okay.
I was thinking you could maybe grab the creature, save Steve, and I can try to talk to it.
Okay, so you jump down into the water. Then you're Loki. You're about waist deep. You're at this 3.5 feet. How tall is Loki again?
Let me see how tall a Firbolg is.
Firbolgs are usually at least 7 feet, aren't they?
Yeah, I always remember them being kind of bigger, but I think I heard you say something like 5 feet, but I might have been misremembering.
I don't believe I gave him a height yet, so let me see how tall Firbolgs are.
The reason you
Yeah,
remember him saying 5 feet is because he was disguised as an elf when we
that's
first
why.
met.
That's why.
Yes.
That was a Firbolg. Yeah, and this might not even be that deep for you.
Let's see. How tall are Firbolgs?
Firbolgs are just barely shorter than Goliaths on average.
Between 7 to 8 feet.
Yeah, so you have no problem standing in this water. Um, so if she's instructed you to try to grapple it, essentially, I would be able to, if you want to change it instead of holding an action. If you wanted to do that as your action, you could. It's up to you.
So, okay. Well, I guess we're going to try to grapple a snake to get Steve free. Is that in athletics?
Yep, it's a opposed athletics, I believe.
Ah,
Okay, so you reach down into this water, and it's invisible while it's in the water, but you definitely know where it is because it's around his neck. And so you just grab on. You can feel it kind of squish into this liquid. So it's like a solid thing that's liquid, so it feels really strange to you. But you grab a hold of it and just kind of yank it out, and you're able to break free, the grapple on Steve, so he's freed. I think it automatically goes to you grappling it. It's not like there's no middle, so it breaks his grapple and it's now grappled with you instead, with you being
yeah.
in charge of it, essentially,
He's
right?
holding it behind the head.
What was it?
He's holding it behind the head.
Yeah. Okay. And so you kind of bring it up above water, and then you can see the shape of it again, and that would trigger Isabelle you to be able to talk to it as your held action.
Okay. So I'm going to try to communicate with this creature and ask. And no, first off, I'm going to apologize for the attack and say, "Hey, we're sorry we attacked you. This might all be a big misunderstanding. Can we talk?"
So it does not have the ability to speak back. It understands you, and it kind of is wriggling around, being held by Loki. And then you see its kind of snake-like head just curve around and look straight up into you, and you look it in the eyes, and there's just these little black specks where it can see out of, essentially. And it doesn't say anything, but it kind of stops wiggling around. And then it's its turn,
I
and it holds its action, basically. And that puts back to Isabelle. Or actually, it's Steve and Carl. Steve splurts back up to the surface, like choking, and tries to claw his way back up to the bank. Carl, seeing what's going on, I imagine he would just abandon the canoe and try to also get up to the bank, seeing as how Loki's holding the monster. But if you guys want them to do something different, let me know.
Nope, just getting to the bank is fine. Them out of the way is our best bet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they both scramble up, sopping wet onto the grass and moss. Isabelle.
I'm going to reach a hand out and try to. No, I mean, usually my thought with an animal is that you have to extend your hand out to show, like in a submissive fashion, to show you mean it no harm.
Yeah.
So I attempt to do that towards this water serpent
Okay. Roll a
as a gesture of
persuasion.
goodwill. Okay, persuasion.
I think I'd give you
And I'm going.
advantage because you spoke into it and it understood what you said. So
I'm also going to double my proficiency with expertise.
okay.
So I think that doubles it. Let me double check what expertise does. Doubled for an ability check. Okay, so I'm going to double my persuasion from 5 to 10. And with advantage, you said?
Yes, because you calmed it down. That's fantastic. So you extend your
All right.
hand to it, and this kind of watery snout of it kind of reaches up and touches the tips of your fingers, and it's very wet and liquid. But then it kind of lets go, and it's still being restrained by Loki, but it's not moving at all. Its action has not triggered or anything. So, what else do you
I
do?
kind of clear my throat to try to motion Loki to let it go, and I try to go to like pet the back of its head.
Okay, Loki, do you let it go?
He will release it, but he will have a action held again. The like to like grab it if it tries to attack.
Okay, so it has a held action which has not gone off because you guys didn't attack it at all or do any additional damage. Since you let it go, on its turn, it's going to basically disappear down into the water, once again being invisible, and you can see the tremor of the water as it swims back towards the cabin, which would provoke an attack of opportunity from both of you if either of you wanted to take it, but it has not attacked you.
I whisper, "Don't."
Loki nods.
Okay.
Well, it didn't attack you, therefore I won't attack it.
Okay. From the beaches you hear, "What was that thing?" And Steve kind of is running up behind you guys, but from the shore.
I would like to make a nature.
What was that?
I said I would like to roll a nature. Nat 20.
Yep. So it was definitely some sort of water spirit or water elemental. It's probably unlikely that you've encountered one of these because it's not natural to this kind of region. But with it being connected so to this water, which is by all accounts kind of an abnormal occurrence with this amount of rain and amount of flooding that's been going on here, it's probably you'd call it a water weird perhaps from the stories, but it's definitely a water elementals type of a monster.
All right, so Steve and Carl have run back to us, right?
Yeah, they're kind of on the bank. Carl reaches down and tries to like pull one of the canoes over to the bank, and Steve is just kind of like trying to see where the water thing went. And
So it ended up cutting out on me, so I did not hear what you were saying.
oh, sorry about that. So Carl pulls in one of the canoes, and Steve is just kind of looking for where the water creature went.
I tell the boat to calm down. It probably doesn't mean us any more harm.
It almost drowned me.
Steve,
We did attack it.
we attacked it first. It was retaliation. It appeared to be a misunderstanding. I'm assuming it's harmless. And considering the flood, it was either probably pulled by a current or caused it.
Oh, he just shivers and is like, oh, I almost lost my life. It was flashing before my eyes.
I'm gonna just like, I don't know. I want to do something sarcastic, but I can't think of anything. I just shake my head and go, but did you die?
He shakes his head and just kind of reaches up to his throat and just holding it for a second.
I look at Steve and I look, how is Carl reacting right now?
Carl is he's looking over at the cabin, having pulled up the canoe that he had been trying to get into. He pulled that up onto the bank, and now he's just looking at the cabin, kind of not paying attention to Steve.
Okay. I look at Steve, I look at Carl, I look at Loki, and I kind of, without saying anything, I'm hoping Loki gets it. I kind of point at both of them and then switch to the fingers I'm pointing with, so it looks kind of like I'm swapping, like,
Loki gives a nod. And hopefully I had a seat. Well, hey, think of it this way. At least I'll have a fun story to tell guys back at the tavern.
yeah, I would agree with that.
Let's get this over with, Carl says. He points over at the hut and says, something's going on in there.
I look at Carl, who's pulled up the canoes, and I look at Loki. Do you want to ride the canoe or do you want to just walk?
I can walk us over.
Okay.
He'll tell So he's going to cast Cure Wounds on Steve first,
Okay.
healing 7.
Yeah, that will be very helpful for him. He took what, 13 damage? I forgot to write it down. I think it was
He
something like
took
13.
10.
Yeah, but it was plus 3, so yeah, it was 13.
Okay.
Oh, I did write it down. Okay. So he is still a little banged up from being dragged on the ground there underwater, but he's fine. He's at 6 hit point or 6 so 14 hit points.
Yeah, second guess. What's up for him?
Okay. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I think we're still waiting for
All
Michael
right,
though.
welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay. Um, Up ahead, you see the cabin. Just kind of you can now hear a kind of the slow whimper noise from inside. Steve pulls in the second canoe and just kind of puts it up next to the other one and kind of goes over next to Carl. Loki and Isabelle, what do you do?
Well, Loki said he was okay with walking, so I'm just gonna stand on his shoulders and point forward and say, "Onward!"
So Loki is going to cautiously approach the cabin,
Okay.
being very wary of the water serpent.
Okay. Actually, can you do me a favor and roll the percentile dice for me? Because I do not. I'm moving the minis.
Percentile.
Okay.
4. Oh no.
Nothing happens with the water serpent. It has left the vicinity.
Oh. If it was
Now,
still there and it didn't because I would have healed it.
yeah, it does not happen. Nothing's there. So you approach this cabin, and I didn't Photoshop like all the water around it, but basically you can get up to and about the 5 foot, the 1 square radius around the cabin is land. It's been elevated a little bit on stilts, and then there's kind of dirt filled in and sediment, which allows it to not be kind of too damaged by this water. So as you get up to it, you can get onto the land, and inside you can see there's kind of this ruined front house. It's basically like a one-room house, like a studio. There's a bed in the corner which is knocked over. There's a little stove at the back, a table. The floor is completely soaked and wet with puddles around, even though it's not submerged with the water. And you see this man just kind of sitting in the corner, crying into his arms.
Hello?
Who's there?
Us.
Us who?
We came from your father's tavern.
Oh. He kind of stands up and kind of looks at you. Are you guys up by the door now, basically?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. He steps over and over some of the upturned furniture and looks out and he says, "Well, come in out of the rain."
Loki enters with Isabella.
Okay.
Okay. As soon as you do, the shelter prevents the rain from hitting you, and it isn't warm in here anymore. All the windows are broken. There's a side door in the back which is open as well, and there's this cross breeze, but you're at least not getting rained on. But inside you see a young man, probably about 18, kind of reddish hair. He is soaked as well, and he looks like he's been in a scuffle. He's got kind of a bruise on his left cheek, kind of like he's been punched or something like that, and he is in kind of tattered clothing. The house is a disaster. Everything's upturned, knocked over, wet, and more or less destroyed.
What happened here?
There was a creature. The floods that are coming in. It's not normal. It's bringing in some sort of elementals from all kinds. I've been stuck in here because it's been patrolling around the house. I can't leave.
I think it's gone now.
What, you got rid of it?
We have boats. Do you want to come?
He looks over at his house that's just all in a mess and I spent so much time building this. I don't want to leave it, but I can't stay here. I will come with you.
Okay.
Do you do anything else or just want to leave?
I want to investigate this place before we leave.
Okay. Yeah, roll an investigation. You kind of look around. So you find everything's been overturned. It looks like the elemental had actually come in here and there'd been a fight between them and it destroyed his house essentially. With an 11, you don't see too many valuables. It looks like he's already kind of collected his gold or whatever he has left into kind of a backpack. But with an 11, you don't necessarily see anything that would come out being noticeable specifically. Isabelle, did you want to look around too or no?
I guess I'll look around too, since we're doing that. I was just kind of like ready to get up and leave, but if we're looking around, I'll do that as well.
Okay.
So, would that be with investigation or perception?
Investigation. Well, I mean, it depends. So Loki's going around looking at the different portions of the room. If you're just looking around from the doorway, then that'd be a perception check. Investigation is a little bit more detailed.
Okay. Well, either way, they're the same stats bonus, so I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So a 10 will not see anything either, unfortunately. And so as you kind of look through, again, it's just in kind of a state of a mess. Hodrick is getting his backpack together and about to come out with you. The two other guys are just waiting outside the boats.
I asked Hodrick, hey Hodrick, do you know Steve and Carl?
I know of them. We went to school together. And then he sees him outside. He's like, oh, hi. Steve just gives him a little wave.
I love how you changed Steve to the fool and Carl's not the fool anymore, because Carl was like, I don't know, contributing more.
Yeah, I can change it back. It sounded like you reversed it with Loki back there.
Yeah, I was just like, hello. Because Carl seemed like, after the whole battle, he seemed more like composed, just focused on the task at hand. And Steve's like, I almost died. I'm like, but you're not dead, so you shouldn't be complaining. Could have been worse.
Exactly. So Hodrick is going to get out and try to squeeze into one of the boats. He doesn't want to go with Steve, so he gets in with Carl, I guess.
Aw, saw Steve.
Yeah. You'd be able to tell that Steve and Hodrick know each other and don't like each other.
Oh. Well, that's sad. But, okay.
So with that, do you guys wish to head back?
There seems to be nothing else here based off what I've seen, so I think heading back would make sense.
Alrighty. So you guys get back in the boats. Isabelle, you're able to probably squeeze. You can go with whichever one, but since you're the halfling, you can get in with whichever boat that you wish, and you can just begin to make your way back. Because you'll be floating downstream. I mean, you still have to navigate the river, or like the flood essentially a little bit, so it's not going to be a direct path. But you're able to make fairly good time to head back to the kind of the main road area. And then from there you would be able to you'd get out of the canoes and then go to the town based from being on foot. So that would take you, if you want to roll a survival check to see how long that takes you.
All right, survival.
Okay. So once again, Loki is a little bit more experienced with this area than Isabelle is, but you're able to get to the main path where the road's been washed out and stuff, but you can still walk on it. It's not overgrown or anything too much. You get back to the area. Do you want to bring the canoes back with you to town as well? You can just have Steve and Carl and Podrick bring them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you come walking back into the village, and from there you see the tavern that you've been staying in, this inn, the Poncho, and you walk in holding the canoe above your head, basically like an umbrella, and before you is the tavern keep, and he is extremely happy to see you. He runs over and clasps Hodrick and says, "My nephew, I'm so glad that you're okay. What happened?" And then they exchange an embrace and tell a couple pieces of stories of what happened. And then Steve and Carl both turn to Isabelle and Loki and just nod and say, "What an adventure this was. Hopefully the rains stop." Then Carl kind of nods and says, "It's been a pleasure to go out with you. Maybe one day I can be an adventurer like you."
Remember, Carl, confidence is the food of the wise man, the liquor of the fool.
Well, I'll have to remember that one. Hodrick disappears to go upstairs to get a change of clothes, and then the tavern owner, you would remember as Osiris, he steps over to you, and the two guys step back. He puts a pouch on the counter and says, "Based off of the condition of what was over there, I think he would have been drowned or washed out. I don't think he's going to have a home to go back to. So if it wasn't for you four, my nephew would be dead. So I would like to compensate you. I'm not going to charge you for the inn stay, but I would also like to give you a little something." And he gives actually all four of you guys a bag of 50 gold pieces. And then he pulls out a letter, and he says, "If you ever need anything within the nation of Nerria, I know you're visiting, but if there's anything else, I'm going to give you these papers, which you can give to any of our main constables from the militia, and this will get you past any future checkpoints. But you can both have that." And he gives both of you basically a pass to Nerria.
Okay. I feel like there was something more going on with the rain and the flood, though.
Indeed, for sure, this is not normal. I suspect there's going to be more work that we need to do to get this storm to cease. I can only think that we're going to need more adventures in the future.
Indeed.
What were you both
Well,
rolling?
hopefully.
Were you rolling Arcana?
The Arcana was two.
Kind of.
I didn't want to interrupt you, like you're talking, so I was going to mention it when I had a chance. Arcana was basically to think if he would know if it was a portal that was causing this to the plane of water, or if it was something else.
Yep. So
I'll roll Arcana too.
yeah, feel free to both roll. Since Loki, I'm gonna have you roll again because you actually mentioned something that is actually almost what it is. So you can roll an Arcana check again. Okay. So unfortunately, you're not rolling too high, but Isabelle, you would remember back to the beginning when Osiris had said something about these dungeons that have been appearing through Nerria, and they hadn't been necessarily having one, but you putting two and two together, you can kind of guess that the source of these storms and waters is probably tied to that somehow. And there will probably be a summons for future adventurers to go and explore this region to find the source of the dungeon and remove it. And that is going to be a future adventure. But for now, you take your payment, you take your pass, and then the very next day, the storm actually abates a little bit. It's not raining quite so hard any longer. It's still drizzling a little bit, but it's not something that's going to be as oppressive. And if you wish, you can take your leave or head on to the next location. But that is where this adventure is going to end. And so I'd like to thank you both for playing, and I hope you had fun.
Thank you
I
for
feel like
having
Loki
us.
would travel with Isabella.
Say again?
So I feel like Loki would travel with Isabelle.
Oh, I would like to travel with you too, Loki. You can reach places I can't, and you appreciate my humor. I think we'll be great friends.
So
And it just kind of like walks towards the sunset on her shoulder.
yeah, beautiful outro. So yes, it was a little different having only two players, so I hope it didn't drag too much or be a little too slow. But for the next game that is going to be kind of a sequel to this, there is a dungeon that was causing this flood, and the creature was escaped from that. So there will be a summons from the Kingdom of Nerria for adventurers to go in and seal it. So if you guys keep an eye out and want to return to kind of close the door on this flood and these.
I would like to. Well, if possible, we can plan around something where I can actually join in for that one.
Yeah, for sure. I'll put you down as basically a confirmed, and we'll work a schedule that will work for that because I know everyone's kind of around different schedules and whatnot. So we'll keep an eye out for that one. And for now, I'm just going to go ahead and end the stream. And if you guys want to hang out and chat a little bit, welcome to do so.
All right, you can put me down as well because I'd like to continue traveling with Loki.
For sure. Awesome.